See, Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum, and in the interest of time, we're still waiting for a few members, but go ahead and start the meeting at your convenience. Thanks.
All righty. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 369th meeting of the BRTB. This meeting is being recorded, and we ask that anyone that is online, if you experience any difficulties at all, please send a message in the chat box. I also ask that BRTB members turn on their cameras during the roll call for attendance and as well as voting. I ask Rebecca now to start the roll call to determine member participation.
Good morning. Annapolis. Anne Arundel County. Baltimore City.
Present.
Thank you. Baltimore County.
Here.
Carroll County.
Here.
Harford County.
Here.
Howard County. Queen Anne's County.
Here.
MDOT.
Here.
RTA of Central Maryland.
Here.
Thank you. MDOT MTA.
Here.
Maryland Department of Environment. Maryland Department of Planning.
Here.
FHWA. Did I miss anyone?
Rebecca, Anne Arundel County joined during the roll call.
Thank you, Todd.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for letting me know.
Very good. Thank you, Rebecca. Our first item today is approval of the minutes from the October RTB meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Hearing nothing, can I ask for a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Harford County motions to approve. Second. MDOT.
All right, hearing from Harford County and MDOT. I'll now ask that if are there any edits from the members? Hearing none, when your name is read, please indicate yay or nay.
Annapolis. Anne Arundel County.
Yay.
Baltimore City.
Yay.
Baltimore County. Baltimore County.
Yay.
Carroll County.
Yay.
Harford County.
Yay.
Howard County. Queen Anne's County.
Yay.
MDOT.
Yay.
RTA of Central Maryland.
Yay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again, Rebecca. The minutes are approved. Now we're going to move along to our public participation opportunity where we offer the public a chance to speak to the board. If anyone has comments on any action item, please wait for the item to be discussed. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board at this time? If you do, please indicate in the chat box.
Mr. Chair, no one requested to speak prior to the meeting, and checking right now, currently there is no one requesting to speak in the chat box.
Great. Now we're going to move along to the report on public comments from Monica.
Good morning. Okay, so this morning we have the public involvement report for November. The first item that I want to share, I'm really excited to present that the Bikeable Baltimore Region Phase 2 project has launched this month. And next slide. So what we're releasing for comment is the proposed bike network for the Baltimore region. We had phase 1 earlier this year where we had a 2-month comment period, went out and about in the region, talking to folks. We're going to be having a community meeting for this phase on December 10th at 6 p.m. at the Baltimore Unity Hall. We're also going to have a virtual meeting on December 12th at 6 o'clock to share information with the public, give folks a chance to ask questions and share comments and that sort of thing on the proposed bike network. Next slide. We've put together a really great website on public input at publicinput.com/bikebaltoregion. And there you'll be able to find a map of the proposed bike network and all the details about what information went into it, how we got there, that sort of thing. And then there's a survey so you can share, folks can share thoughts on what they think. We also have a version in Spanish, and the website can be translated into, I think, over 100 different languages. So those are the QR codes for anybody who's interested. You can just scan those or go to those websites. The comments are welcome through the end of the year and into January. So by January 10th, please let us know what you think, and we definitely hope to see folks at the meetings. Next slide. So also excited, this week we're going to be launching phase 3 of the engagement process for the PRG, Patapsco Regional Greenway Stony Run project. What we're sharing is the final path that has been chosen, the final, the preferred alignment, as a lot of folks call it. So this final path that has been outlined, we're looking to hear from folks what they think. This is based on 2 previous phases of public engagement and community engagement with folks in the area. So we want to know what they think of that and what kinds of trail amenities, what kinds of things would make a great trail. So we're going to be having a community meeting for that on December 11th at 6 o'clock. That's going to be at the Severn Library in Anne Arundel County. We will launch that again this week, and that's going to be at publicinput.com/PRG. Next slide. So we are very busy this fall and super excited to let you know we are also launching this week, hopefully later today, this project called What If? And this is part of part of a project that came out of our Equity Scan project to do some scenario planning, to think about the future and ask about what could, the future possibly hold, how can we possibly plan for it, that sort of thing. So we want folks to let us know how we can go in the right direction. We have a survey we're putting together. Folks will have a chance to win a $50 gift card if they take the survey. So that's going to be launching this week at publicinput.com/whatif. And I just wanted to share also that we have been getting out and about in the community. We're making new connections with folks. We've attended this fall, we've attended some events with Young Professionals in Transportation and Women in Transportation seminar. We've made connections with the Baltimore Grow Center, who's part of the Baltimore City Office of Sustainability, participated in a pop-up event with them. I've been attending City Council, the Annapolis City Council meeting, Anne Arundel County Transportation Commission, and Howard County Multimodal Transportation Board, looking to expand our connections with other commissions and boards. And we do have staff that go to other commissions as well. And I also have made a great connection with Interfaith Power and Light, which is an interfaith network that's serving the region, focusing on sustainability and activating faith-based communities. We've also been conducting, I mentioned earlier, the Bikeable Baltimore Region project. We've done some really cool pop-up outreach. These are some photos from handlebar interviews that we had, which is basically, chatting with people who are biking and talking to them about what they like or what they want to see or what they need. So we're really excited about this outreach. And if you have meetings you'd like us to attend, or events, or places you think it would be great for us to get out and talk with people, please let us know. And that should be it. If there's any questions, you can let me know.
Great. Thank you so much, Monica. A lot of good work.
Thank
Now
you.
we're going to hear from Dan about our November meeting of the technical committee.
Nice, thank you. Dan Janicek, Maryland Department of Transportation. Be hard to follow that up. There was a lot of work going on there with the public outreach. Appreciate that, Monica, for that overview. Technical committee met on November 6th at 9:30, and we just have some short minutes from that meeting. We went over the 7 amendments that were presented. You'll be seeing amendments today from Maryland Transit Administration for a couple projects, Maryland Port Administration, Baltimore City, Anne Arundel County Highway Safety Fund project, and the Maryland Clean Energy Center. So we reviewed all those projects and approved them all today to come before the board. The remaining resolution is to consider carryover funds from the FY24 and to be brought into the FY25 UPWP. We still have open grants for that, so there are some discussion, and members were asked to check local balances prior to today's meeting for BMC staff. And that concluded the technical committee meeting, and we went right into the congestion management meeting after that. That's our report today. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Dan. Todd, could we please introduce the action items?
Certainly. Good morning, everyone. Today we have 4 tip amendment action items for today's agenda. We're going to run through each of these resolutions, allowing comments on each, and then we're going to have a single vote for all 4 of the resolutions. So to begin with, we're going to ask Ms. Endamazia Fonkum, who's going to just provide an overview on all of the different tip amendments. Endamazia?
Yeah, thank you, Todd, and good morning to the board. So today we have 7 different projects coming up to the board through 4 different amendments. 6 are new TIP projects due to grant awards, and 1 is a breakout from a previous TIP project. None of the projects trigger a conformity assessment or a model run. You have all been provided a sheet to note any questions, and we will take questions at the end of each resolution. In Resolution 2510, MDOT-MTA is requesting to add 4 projects to the 2528 TIP. The Raised Transit Priority Project is a Baltimore City project that will include a comprehensive suite of investments that will facilitate more efficient trips along the corridor and has appeared in previous versions of the TIP. The MTA Cloud-Based Signal Priority Project will install cloud-based signal priority solutions at 90 intersections along 4 main transit bus routes. The Patapsco Avenue pedestrian bridge is a breakout from a previous project in the 2020-2023 TIP, and the US 29 Bus Rapid Transit Station Improvements Project will provide raised bus stop platforms at 3 locations in Howard County. Ms. Jamie Richardson from MTA will present the details of the first 3 projects, with Mr. David Cookson from Howard County presenting the last. In Resolution 2511, the Maryland Port Administration is requesting to add 1 new project to the TIP, the Fairfield-Masonville Terminal Stormwater Management System Project. This will capture and convey surface runoff from the Masonville Dredge Material Containment Facility, as well as other drainage improvements around the site. Mr. Dominic Spurdy from the Port Administration will present the details of this project. In Resolution 2513, Anne Arundel County is requesting to add a project to the TIP for their Vision Zero pedestrian and bicycle count program, which will purchase permanent and portable units to count pedestrians and bicycles at high traffic trail crossings and intersections. Mr. Brian Ulrich will present the details of this project. And finally, in Resolution 2514, the MDOT, on behalf of the Maryland Clean Energy Center, is requesting to add a project for the Maryland Equitable Charging Infrastructure Partnership, which will provide privately owned charging infrastructure to the alternative fuels corridors in the Baltimore region. Mr. Larry Twell of Eastport Partners will provide the details of this project.
Great. Thank you very much, Endamazia. So to start off with, as was mentioned, today the BRTB is being asked to consider Resolution 25-10. This considers 4 different proposed amendments on behalf of MDOT-MTA. I'm going to turn it over first, as was mentioned, to Jamie Richardson. Jamie, please start.
Thanks, Todd. Good morning, everyone. Jamie Richardson, Manager of Baltimore Planning at MTA, and I'll present MTA's actions. So when MTA obligates a grant, we need to have the funds shown in the year of obligation. So that's why we have these actions today. So we're taking a number of actions to obligate a number of grants. Next slide. So first is our Raise East-West Transit Priority Project. So this proposes enhancements to the City Link Blue and Orange. We'll be obligating the Raise grant in FY25 and the benefits of the project to provide faster, more reliable transit and improve pedestrian safety along this 20-mile corridor that spans east-west throughout Baltimore City and goes into Baltimore County a bit on the east and west side as well. So for the apportionment, this amendment shifts $22 million in raise funds and the $32.4 million in local and state funds from FY24 to FY25 just to reflect the year of obligation. We're hoping to finish design in 2025 and then we'll enter procurement. Just hoping to get our paper grant agreement signed with FTA soon so we can get that money and then get to the next stage of the project. Next slide. Second project I'll be presenting is the Patapsco Avenue Ped Bike Bridge. So this project would provide a direct and safe connection from the Cherry Hill neighborhood to the Patapsco Avenue light rail station. Right now we're obligating FY20 TA funds, and we have an FY 2024 congressionally directed spending or an earmark. This project would improve safety and accessibility for users of the Patapsco Avenue light rail station and the bus loop that we also have at the light rail station. So for the apportionment, it will obligate previously awarded FY 2020 TA funds in the amount of $624,000 and show an FY 26 obligation for our $5 million FY 24 congressionally directed spending, and design is underway for this project. Next slide. And the last slide project I'll be presenting is our cloud-based signal priority project. So this project will install cloud-based TSP solutions at around 90 intersections on 4 high-frequency bus lines. This was an FY 2025 SMART grant that we recently received. And we hope with this project that will improve bus speeds and reliability and also reduce the installation and maintenance costs compared to our existing TSP system. So for the apportionment, we'll be obligating $1.27 million in SMART funds to FY25, and this project kicked off in summer of this year with a period of performance of 18 months per the SMART grant requirements. So hoping for implementation in FY25 with a final report to show the impacts in FY26. And that was my last project. So thank you.
Great. We'll now turn to Mr. David Cookson of Howard County to present on the US 29 Bus Rapid Transit Stations project. David?
All right, good morning, everyone. So I'm going to do a quick presentation on our US 29 Bus Rapid Transit Stations. Some background for members that don't have a lot of background, might not have a lot of background on this. So the project is going to construct 4, actually, raised bus stops in 3 different areas of Howard County, in the Maple Lawn community, on Johns Hopkins Road, and in downtown Columbia. Goal is to provide level boarding for BRT buses and other buses on our RTA transit routes. Each one of these stations, excuse me, is going to have ADA accessible bicycle and pedestrian access. So that's one of the goals of the project. So this is going to support an operation project to extend the US 29 flash service from Montgomery County to downtown Columbia via Maple Lawn and APL. We'll be operating in the AM peak and the PM peak. If you can jump to the next slide, please. So the apportionment it's at $750,000 in community project funding. That's getting matched with just over $600,000 in county matching for the construction. The schedule, right now we are in 30% design, and the goal is to finish final design at the end of this year or early into 2025. and then flip into bidding and construction. So construction is estimated to take about 1 year, and we are projecting to start operations in early 2026. Next slide, please. So a quick representation of the route. So we're currently, the Montgomery County system terminates at the Burtonsville Park and Ride Lot and Shopping Center. So it'll be extending up to Maple Lawn, turning using 216 Maple Lawn Boulevard and then Johns Hopkins Road, and then going into the Mall of Columbia area, either by Brooklyn Land Parkway or the new ramps when they are placed into operation. Next slide, please. And a quick representation of what the typical station is going to look like. This is a rendering of the station in front of the APL campus. So very typical station modeled on Montgomery County's station design, but not as extensive, using more standard off-the-shelf parts and shelters to allow us to implement this project a little bit more economically. And we can jump to the next slide. That is it. So if any questions, I'll be more than willing to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now what we'll do is we'll have you ask the BRTB members for questions or comments, and then for the public, reminding you that we're going to do a single vote for several of the resolutions at the end. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Great. Do any of the members have any questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing now, we ask that any member of the public, if you have any questions or comments on the resolutions, please say so now. And for those online, indicate in the chat box. Todd, does any member of the public been asked to speak?
Mr. Chair, currently we have no one requesting to speak in the chat box. If this is so, we can move on to the next resolution, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Great.
Please do so.
Next, today the BRTB is being asked to consider Resolution 25-11. This amendment is requested by the Maryland Port Administration for the Fairfield-Masonville Stormwater Management Phase 1 project. We have Mr. Dominic Skirty, who is going to present on the project. Dominic, could you take it away?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Dominic Skirty. I'm the Director of Planning with the Maryland Port Administration. If you go to the next slide. So this project that we're asking to be added to the tip is the Fairfield-Masonville Stormwater Management Project Phase 1. And this is just a brief overview of the area. You have the Masonville Dredge Material Containment Facility at the top in purple, along with our Fairfield Terminal and Masonville terminals below that. Just to give everyone an idea that, this terminal is primarily handled automobiles. The Masonville DMCF is one of 2 terminals in the Baltimore Harbor that can accept dredged material. And just for context later on, that area of undeveloped land is what we call the Kurt Iron Slip. And that is an undeveloped area right now. Next slide. So this project, the purpose is to convey and capture stormwater runoff from the adjacent Masonville DMCF, relieve the existing Fairfield Marine Terminal drain system, and provide drain capacity for the development of the aforementioned Kurt Iron Slip and other areas of Fairfield and Masonville Marine Terminals. Our key objective here is to exceed our MS4 permit requirements without losing valuable land space for the movement and storage of cargo. This does connect to the BRTB's long-term transportation planning goals by reducing surface and runoff as well as water pollution. If you could go to the next slide. So the project will be funded with mostly Federal Highway Protect Formula funding. There's about $900,000 of matching state funding with about, I guess, $3.6 million of the Protect funding. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, Mr. Chair, now we'll take questions and comments from the BRTB and then the public on this resolution.
We now ask that if any members of the BRTB members have any questions or comments on the resolution. Hearing none, we now ask that if any member of the public has any questions or comments on the resolution, please do so now. And for those online, please indicate any comments in the chat box. Todd, has any member of the public asked to speak?
Mr. Chair and board members, currently there is no one requesting to speak in the chat box on this resolution.
Very good. We'll move on to the next resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, today, the BRTB is being asked to consider Resolution 25-13. This amendment was requested by Anne Arundel County for a new project to be added to the tip for the Vision Zero Pedestrian and Bicycle Count Program project. Mr. Brian Ulrich is going to present on this project. I saw Brian join. Are you able to present?
Yes. Are you going to run the slides? Okay. You can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right. Sorry. All right. Yes. So this TIP amendment is to establish a bicycle and pedestrian count program. The county adopted Vision Zero by executive order, and as part of our implementation plan, we're purchasing counters to count pedestrians and bicycles at key intersections where trails cross roads, as well as associated with capital projects to look at specific countermeasures that we may need to use. Next slide. So this TIP amendment is to accept a grant for the counters themselves. The counters, there will be some portable counters to move around to different locations, as well as some permanent counters at key trail crossings. You can see the amount there, and the county will install and maintain and use them. This is just to purchase the counters themselves. Some of our key trail crossings that we're going to install the permanent counters at are the B&A trail crossings on Robinson Road, WB&A trail crossing, and there's one more, I believe. And then the portable ones, again, would be either areas of concern or kind of pre-post capital projects to track progress. So the award was in December of last year. We got NEPA approval this spring. We're working on the MIU as soon as the TIP amendment is done. There will be no right-of-way. We'll be installing these in existing right-of-way, and so we'll be procuring them this winter and putting up this coming spring. And that's all I had, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now we'll turn to comments from the BRTB and the public. Thanks.
Very good. We now ask that BRTB members, if you have any questions or comments on this resolution, please do so now. Hearing none, we now ask if any member of the public has any questions or comments on the resolution to do so. And for those online, please indicate your comments within the chat box. Todd, has any member of the public asked to speak?
Mr. Chair, currently there is no member of the public requesting to speak in the chat box.
Okay, we will move on now to the next resolution.
Great. Today, the BRTB is being asked to consider Resolution 25-14. This amendment is to include funding for the Maryland Clean Energy Center from the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discretionary Grant Program to support technology and infrastructure in the existing alternative fuel corridors in the Baltimore region. I apologize if I mispronounce your name, but Mr. Larry Tweel will now present. Larry?
Hey, you nailed it. That's all right. Not too many people do. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present. Yes, on behalf of the Maryland Clean Energy Center, we were awarded a portion of the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discretionary Grant Program. Just for background, this was announced last January through Department of Transportation and Federal Highway, made possible by the Biden administration's bipartisan infrastructure law. Its goal was to fund 47 projects in 22 states and Puerto Rico and complements the $5 billion NEVI program to build a backbone of EV chargers across the country. Next slide, please. The Maryland Clean Energy Center was awarded $15 million for community projects, and we applied under a consortium called the Maryland, next slide, please, Equitable Charging Infrastructure Partnership. And this is a consortium made up of public and private entities. We have 6 private companies, 3 counties, 2 cities, the University of Maryland and the International Brotherhood of Workers Local 24. That's the Electrical Workers Union, and they play an important role in the workforce development side of this. Next slide, please. So the goals of the CFI program is to supplement, not necessarily supplant, private sector investment. With the federal dollars, we are bringing, this is statewide now, over $9 million in private sector investment. It's to complement the other programs that are out there in the state, working with MDOT and the NEVI plan goals. Another goal is to facilitate, public access, more chargers for easier access and accelerate the vehicle adoption of zero emission vehicles throughout the state. Next slide, please. Also, some important goals are to implement Justice 40 objectives. So the partnership will be installing chargers into low to moderate income communities throughout the state, both rural and urban portions of the state, and to, of course, to reduce greenhouse gas and vehicle related emissions. Next slide. The outcomes of the community program for the Equitable Partnership. We're going to be constructing 58 sites throughout the state of Maryland. There's an important workforce development component in this in terms of electrical vehicle training certification to existing journey persons, but also apprenticeships. Over 300 apprenticeships will be trained in this technology. And we're also, making sure that outreach is to, all communities to provide employment opportunities. And we're also tracking and measuring the outcomes of this. The University of Maryland's Build America Center projected this project will reduce fuel use, greenhouse gases, and other pollutants. But throughout the course of the project, they will be tracking that output as well. Next slide. In the Baltimore region, this program will be constructing 15 sites. Total project cost over almost $5 million, $3.4 million of federal funds, and $1.3 of private sector match. Next slide. These are the site details of those sites in the Baltimore region, and highlighted here where you can see where it covers Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Hartford, Howard, Carroll County. So it's a wide reach across the BRTB region. Those are the highlights. Any questions? Happy to take them.
Mr. Chair, I'll turn it to you to handle questions from the BRTB and the public.
We ask once again that if any of the BRTB members have a question or comment, please do so now. Hearing none, we now ask that if any member of the public has any questions or comments on the resolution to do so now. And for those online, please indicate so in the chat box. Todd, has any member of the public asked to speak?
Mr. Chair, we did have one question for Larry. The question was, how were these sites selected?
Throughout the grant application process, we put out a call to private sector companies or jurisdictions that had sites that were ready. One of the criteria was they were close to being shovel ready, and They also had to meet, some of the Justice 40 objectives as well. So the vendors brought sites, or the jurisdictions brought sites to us that met that criteria, and we included them into the application.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, currently there are no more questions from the chat box from the public.
Excuse
Very
me, Mr.
good.
Chair.
Oop.
Dan Janasek with MDOT. I just want to remind folks that this is the first round of MCEC funding. So if you want to contact Larry, you can contact myself or Larry. And if you've got projects in your county that you want them to consider or begin working there, but I think he's reached out to most of the counties so far. But there will be a second round and maybe future rounds. That's correct, Larry?
We are in the final stages of the second round. We had applied for community and corridor projects for about $50 million. We were only awarded the community projects initially, but late this summer, we were awarded the other half. So we did get an additional round of funding for the corridor projects, and we're in the final stages of finalizing that agreement with Federal Highway.
Thanks.
With that, Mr. Chair, we now ask the board to consider resolutions 25-10, -11, -12, -13, and -14 on a single vote, please.
Great. And we do appreciate all the presentations today. I now ask that a member to move for approval of the resolutions and to get a second.
County moves to approve.
Baltimore City seconds.
Okay, with hearing that from AA County and Baltimore City, we now proceed to the vote on all the TIP amendments. Again, with your cameras on, when Rebecca reads your name, please indicate yay or nay.
Annapolis, Anne Arundel County,
Yay.
Baltimore City,
Yay.
Baltimore County,
Yay.
Carroll County,
Yay.
Hartford County,
Yay.
Howard County,
Yay.
Queen Anne's County,
Yay.
MDOT,
Yay.
and RTA of Central Maryland.
Yay.
Thank you.
So all the TIP resolutions have passed. Todd, can we move on to the next action item, please?
Today, the BRTB is being asked to consider resolution 25-15. The BRTB is being asked to consider this resolution that will reconcile the fiscal year 2024 carryover projects into the fiscal year 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. I'm going to present some details. So again, this action is an annual work program item where we go back at the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, in this case, June 30th of 2024, and we identify any projects that need to continue from previous work programs. So this is the dollar amounts that were still on hand as of June 30th, 2024. This includes both consultant projects and then also local funds to work within the MPO program. This does not include any amounts that were programmed originally in the fiscal year 25 Unified Planning Work Program. Those were approved in April and will still continue forward. So as of June 30th, you'll see that we had a number of projects that are underway and still had some balance remaining within their project. This includes the Patapsco Regional Greenway Guinness to Southwest Area Park project. We had the latest round of transportation land use connection grants. Recently, those were selected and are underway. We have dollar amounts available for several years of a project for the implementation of RTP corridors. Currently, MTA is in the update process of the Central Maryland Regional Transit Plan, so we might be able to apply some of these funds to whatever comes out of that project. There was a project that was never initiated, still trying to coordinate with State Highway Administration on some of their plans, but it's a corridor access management plan. You'll recognize from the previous announcement that we are underway with the Bikeable Baltimore Region project, which was identified as the vision for integrated regional bicycle network within the work program. We're still continuing our partnership with TAM, the Transportation Association of Maryland, on the LOTS skills and technology support. And then the project for expanding coverage for electric vehicle charging basically is wrapped up, but still had some dollars available to it at the end of June 30th. Moving forward on some more additional tasks, we are developing a request for proposals for coordination of human service transportation providers. These are the 5310 providers for elderly and disabled transportation services. We do have money available. We have yet to go out with an RFP for assisting local unified master transportation plan projects. There's only about $9,000 still left to be spent at the end of June for the fares, fees, and fines project, and we hope to come to a presentation to the board on that here sometime soon. Also, another project where there was a recent presentation was the transportation and housing project that it only had about $15,000 at the end of June. The post-pandemic trends project is well underway, and we're anticipating some presentations for the board probably in the January and February period. The Patapsco Regional Greenway Stony Run project is well underway also. And then the Microtransit Solutions project is also underway. Finishing this out with 5 more additional contracts. We have the Patapsco Regional Greenway Maintenance and Operations Manual that went through an RFP process, and we have a consultant underway. We are yet to release an RFP for the regional freight profile, but we're pretty close. Recently, we put out an RFP for the local signal infrastructure assessment project, and we're underway with developing a contract with the selected consultant. We still have some money available for the Patapsco Regional Greenway branding project. And then the Transportation Planning Institute, we've been working with AMPO, the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, on an online training program. So that left at June 30th about $3.79 million of remaining consultant project tasks from previous fiscal years. Now moving on, each one of the local jurisdictions has some dollars remaining to be involved in certain portions of these tasks, including projects like the RTP lot support and technology, the EV charging, and the the Bikeable Baltimore Region project, or the Vision for Regional Bike Projects. Baltimore City has identified some projects for transit equity gap studies and then traffic calming. Anne Arundel County is some additional projects such as a safety study with crash data analysis that they're working on, some TOD designations, and some implementation of their regional transit plan. Baltimore County has a traffic calming task that is being managed by BMC, but still has some money for, again, the lot support, the EV charging, and the Bikeable Baltimore Region tasks. Carroll County is, again, also utilizing some work that is being managed by BMC as part of the Patapsco Regional Greenway project for the Henryton Road Bridge H&H study, and still has some money for the EV charging and the regional bike project. Harford County has some money left over for projects such as work with the Southern County Task Force, the Susquehanna River Bridge project. The Hartford Next project is their comprehensive plan project, and then some money available for the EV charging and regional bike project. Howard County is utilizing some of their funds for the Columbia Gateway project, and then some of the other projects that have been mentioned previously. And then Queen Anne's County, again, has some of the continuing projects, but then also is looking to move forward the Kent Island Cox Creek Transportation Plan and the Maryland 8 study. So the local funding that was left over as of June 30th totaled about $861,000. With the consultant funding that totals about $4.6 million that will be moved forward by this resolution into the fiscal year 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. We've done a budget check and still have this money available to us. But again, we always like to try to close out as many of these projects as we can throughout the process. And with that, I will turn it back to the chair to handle any questions from the BRTB and or members of the public.
I now ask that any members have any questions or comments on this resolution.
Do we have a question from our Maryland Department of Planning rep?
Yeah, not question, just idea. Over the years, BMC and BRTB has done very good, all the UPWP studies and all that. I wonder if it's feasible that this kind of a study report results can be made online available to the public or
It's a good idea. We are doing an update of our website. So we have recently put out an RFP and are waiting answers. So we can certainly add that into the design of the website. It's a great idea. Let's see if we can explore that.
Thank you.
Question from Harford County?
Hi, thanks, Todd. Just wondering if we can get a copy of those slides, really just showing what our balances are.
Certainly, yes. We will definitely send them out. We'll make these available online. We did provide them also at Tech Committee. So right now they're available under the Tech Committee folder if you want to pull them up immediately, but it normally takes us a couple hours at least to try to upload some of these presentations and things like that. But if you have any questions about the dollar amounts, we can certainly work with the executive committee to try to clear up any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Moving along, we now ask that if any member of the public has any questions or comments on the resolution, and for those online, please indicate in the chat box. Todd, has any member of the public asked to speak?
Mr. Chair, currently there's no member of the public requesting to speak.
Okay.
Oops, we just got something in the chat. Hold on one second. Actually, Regina put a link to the presentation online in the chat box for anyone who needs it. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Very good. I now ask that the members, we're going to move to approve the resolution. Can I get a approval and a second?
County approves. In Queen Anne's County, you'll second.
Okay, hearing from AA County and Queen Anne's County. I now ask Rebecca to call the roll. Please have your cameras on and indicate yay or nay.
Annapolis, Anne Arundel County,
Yay.
Baltimore City,
Yay.
Baltimore County,
Yay.
Carroll County,
Yay.
Harford County,
Yay.
Howard County,
Yay.
Queen Anne's County,
Yay.
MDOT,
Yay.
RTA of Central Maryland.
Yay. Thank you.
Very good. The resolution is passed, and we're going to move on to our next action item. Mr. Jeff Anderson, the Chief of MDOT Office of Planning, Programming, and Delivery, will present to the BRTB on the proposed revised project prioritization system.
Jeff, we were able to make you co-host. Hopefully you can share your screen.
Okay, I thought you were going to have the slides, Todd, and you were going to hand them over to me. My apologies.
Okay, sorry, I can do that. Just hold on
Okay.
a second.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Apparently I didn't have a good concept of how that was going to work. But thank you everyone for allowing me the time today to talk about MDOT's new prioritization proposal. As you may or may not know, there is currently a process known as Chapter 30 that was adopted by the legislature in 2017 that basically directs MDOT to have a system for evaluating and ranking and prioritizing new capacity projects for surface transportation. MDOT is in the process of thinking about updating this prioritization process, and that's what this presentation is going to be giving you a sense of where we're headed with this. So I guess, Todd, this will still have you advancing the slides if you don't mind. The reason prioritization is important to us is really because it's very much about where our agency is headed and where Governor Moore's directive is taking us to be more data-driven and heart-led. When I think about prioritization, that's basically exactly what prioritization is all about. What are you trying to accomplish by investing in transportation and then using data and analysis to figure out which potential investments do the most to get you to those goals and the achievement of those values. Go ahead. So as I mentioned, there is an existing Chapter 30 process. We are interested in updating it for a couple different reasons. One is that it really was instituted by the legislature in 2017 in opposition to the then administration, and I think that's hindered some of its implementation. In addition, and probably more important, is the fact that I think our partners largely I think don't see the current process as entirely transparent, not entirely fair, and not exactly clear how projects being scored and ranked ends up affecting whether they're included in the CTP for funding. And as we've gotten into thinking about this and have received that kind of feedback, we've also started to think about sort of adjacent parts of the process that have not seen updates in quite some time. People who've been at MDOT longer than I tell me that our process for adding new capacity projects to our funding plan to the CTP is largely unchanged for a couple decades. So we're looking kind of at the prioritization process itself, as well as sort of some of the things that surround that and see opportunities for improvement. So the new process is really, at its heart, it's about making sure we get the most bang for the buck. Are we getting the projects that are doing absolutely the most for every dollar we spend to deliver on the values and goals that Marylanders have for the transportation system? We want to be able to evaluate projects as directly in line with the goals that we have for them as possible. So not have it sort of a highly attenuated scoring system, but measure safety with lives saved and so forth. We'd like to be able to, again, be transparent about how this ranking works, how projects are scored, be accountable for running a good process, and be accessible to our stakeholders, to the public, and to others. And some of the changes that we're talking about that sort of go along with this idea, we think can help us actually increase certainty in terms of on time and on budget delivery. And then we want this to be an evolving and living process, not sort of set it and forget it, but instead a process where we are able to sort of evaluate the ranking system, take input from stakeholders, and make adjustments as we move forward to additional years of funding. So what are we trying to accomplish when we invest in transportation projects? I think these won't be a surprise to anyone who's worked on transportation: safety, access and mobility, making sure that we're careful of the climate and the environment, improving social equity, economic competitiveness, and really demand management and sustainable land use. And then doing all of those things in a way that maximizes the value of each dollar we spend. So we have applied for a $2 million federal grant. This is sort of an aside, but just so you all are aware, we're determined to proceed with this process and with this update, whether we get this grant or not. But if we do get the grant, I think it'll give us an opportunity to really make the user interface and the public experience of engaging with this a lot better, and just make it even more transparent, easier to find the projects that are being submitted, easier to put some commentary in there and just get a sense of how those are scoring and how the whole system is working. In terms of what we're talking about when we're talking about this, we are really talking about surface transportation, and this is consistent with the current Chapter 30 process. So we're not talking about the airports or port. We're talking about highways, public transportation, bike ped projects, and so forth, all the surface transportation modes. We are looking at capacity enhancing projects. So if we're just talking about repaving a road or replacing a metro car or some other kind of state of good repair project that does not add capacity to the existing road or transit system or bikeway system, then those would not apply here. But if it is adding to those and it's a project that costs in excess of $5 billion, then that is going through this prioritization process. As you can imagine, we have to have some minimum level of design to be able to evaluate projects. So, you know, is it a road project? Is it a transit project? Is it a bike ped project? Where is it located? What are the basic design features? What's the basic estimates of costs? Those are the kinds of pieces of information you need to be able to compare projects against one another. In terms of the entities that can apply to submit projects for evaluation and eventual funding, it's largely consistent. Our update is largely consistent with Chapter 30, but you can see we are talking about adding MPOs, transit agencies, and requiring ourselves as a state agency to put all of our capacity projects through this same process. Applications, we have imagined that the applications, we might take applications in sort of a larger size project and smaller size project, so that projects under 20 million, you know, if I'm a local jurisdiction and I can submit 6 projects total, and I have, you know, 6 large projects and 2 small projects, I might be tempted to just submit all 6 large projects because I want to make sure that the sort of larger money projects get considered. But we want to see, as MDOT, we want to see those smaller projects because they often can deliver outsized benefits. So we created two levels of application with separate limits for each. And then in terms of the number of projects that can be submitted by an applicant, it's really based on the number of people served by that entity. And that's kind of scaled based on that those service numbers. Project evaluation, I mentioned, we want it to be very closely connected to the values. We wanted to keep the rankings objective and quantitative. So subjective measures like trying to assess the level of public support for something and then giving that a number, that's not included here. This is really about using data and analysis, and I'll talk about sort of a couple examples of that later. We do want to be able to have the public and our stakeholder partners to really be able to see what's going on inside of the scoring, so that you can look at a project and say, I see why it scored what it did. I understand ways that I could change it or improve it to improve its scoring. And to be clear about kind of what we're seeking in projects. Another piece of this, and as I said, there are kind of adjacent pieces that we're thinking about, are the priority letters, and obviously this is a place where local governments are submitting your priorities to MDOT. We are thinking about creating an online portal for submitting those letters, and then putting some standard formatting around them, so that, for instance, right now we get letters that may be 3 pages from one jurisdiction and 15 from another, and some are very clear and say, you know, our top priorities are, you know, 1, 2, 3, and the others you might have to sort of pick through a narrative and do some interpretation to understand. So trying to put some discrete fields and ask, for instance, what are your top 4 priorities for projects under 20 million? What are your top 4 priorities for projects between 20 million and 400 million? And having other fields that are very specific about what we're looking for. And then, of course, still having an open narrative section that people could sort of tell the broader story of their situation. The other part of this is that when we are thinking about capacity enhancement projects and running this new process, we would like to be able to announce at the beginning of a funding cycle how much funding is available. So, at the beginning, before we open the portal for applications, we might say there are $200 million available for capacity expansion. And when we started to think about this, and particularly in light of MDOT's current fiscal situation, we realized that if doing that on an annual basis may yield, well, compared to a biannual basis, obviously, a smaller amount of funding available for each cycle. So rather than that, we were looking at going to an every other year cycle for capacity expansion projects and combining essentially the 2 years funding into one pot that would be announced. So we might say there are $500 million that would enable larger projects to be submitted, that would give a broader opportunity for more projects to be funded, creating a bigger pool to choose from, and hopefully improving the quality of the projects that can be selected from as a result. That's the CTP would still be every single year, just in the off years, it wouldn't include capacity enhancing projects. So that's that timing would stay the same. Another aspect that we'd like to incorporate, or that we've been thinking a lot about and getting feedback on, is for those projects that are selected for funding. And so the way it might work is, after announcing there's $200 million and ranking the projects 1 through 40, if we got 40 projects, you might say, okay, well, with $200 million, you can fund the first 19. And that's how we would be thinking about this, is actually programming those projects that are selected fully into the CTP from design all the way through construction. As you know, if you've been working with the CTP for any amount of time, currently there are projects reflected in many different states of design, environment, engineering, and so forth, without a great deal of certainty necessarily about when the next phase of funding would come for that. That creates obviously uncertainty on the part of our local partners in terms of when and if projects will advance, what their ultimate date of conclusion would be. And it creates difficulties internal to MDOT from a budgeting standpoint. Having projects that stretch on or don't have definitive end dates makes the budgeting very hard because of the effects of inflation. You are sort of starting and stopping progress, meaning you're engaging and disengaging teams and contractors and other people. So we're trying to sort of bring as much certainty to that process as we can with this idea. That said, it's not 100% guarantee, because if funding falls short from what we expect, that can cause delays. But this is sort of the most I think we can do that's within our control. There are types of funds out there like CMAQ, lots, highway user revenues, other funding types that currently have their own systems for distribution and allocation as designated either in state or federal legislation. Those would obviously continue to have their own methods for distribution and allocation. But any funds that MDOT has fairly wide discretion and control over, if they are being dedicated towards capacity enhancements, it's contemplated they would go through this process, this prioritization process. As we've envisioned it, I've talked a lot about sort of entering projects into a portal, ranking them based on quantitative factors and analysis. coming up with a ranking. That's really what step one in the overall selection process would be characterized by that process. Step two would be publishing that list in the CTP, saying here are projects 1 through 40. Here are the 19 that are funded out of that, and then doing the CTP tour as usual, getting feedback on those rankings and on those funding choices. And then step three would be the MDOT secretary could make changes to that project list based on factors like public support or geographic equity or other factors that may come in, but we would be really trying to spell out what those factors might be ahead of time to sort of have a clear policy for articulating what would justify substituting one for another, and then releasing that final list with a kind of clarification about any project substitutions that were made, why those were done. So I'm going to pause there for a moment to take any questions to this point, because I'm going to move into the scoring measures and criteria and get a little more specific about how projects would be evaluated and ranked. But I know that's a lot of information that I've already put out, so I'm happy to kind of take any questions now, or you're welcome to hold them till further on in the presentation. And I see a hand, but I can't see whose hand it's associated with.
All right, don't see any hands up right now, Jeff.
Oh, I think it was your
hold on a
cursor
second.
then.
We do. Yeah, our chair, Tony Russell. There we go.
Well, Jeff, you can imagine that Baltimore County has quite a few questions. I was just wondering, I guess this could have waited to the end, but is your team going to be available to maybe come or have a WebEx with some of our staff?
Yeah, in fact,
a little further up the ladder than me. That way I know everybody's interested in this since the CTP tour.
Yeah, and in fact, I've got a slide later. We've done a lot of outreach to transportation county staff, to municipalities, to MPOs, to a variety of folks. So it's possible that some of the folks have already been in briefings on this, but I'm happy to make myself available for others as needed. And we are going to, we're of course producing collateral materials that sort of explain this in depth in terms of both the process for actually submitting a project, what kind of data you need, how that works, where to go to do that, a technical guide that will spell out in much more detail than I'm about to the scoring measures and criteria and other things like that. So there will be kind of additional information sessions when it comes to actually submitting projects and some, hopefully technical assistance and discussion as that process moves forward.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Any other questions before I dive into the scoring? Okay, we'll move forward. So as I said, these are the values that have been identified in the state plan and the long-range transportation plan here at Maryland Department of Transportation. This is what we're aiming for when we invest in projects. We are contemplating basically measuring each of these. You can go forward, Todd, with specific measures. And so, safety should come as no surprise. Does a project reduce fatalities and serious injuries? What impact does it have on that? And trying to measure sort of what, before a project and after a project, what's the difference, and attributing those changes to that project as the score. Measure 2 under safety is really the same thing, but trying to normalize for the amount of use a facility gets. And kind of the easiest way, I think, to conceptualize this is if you have 2 roads with an identical number of fatalities and serious injuries per year on them, if one gets half as much use, it's twice as dangerous. And that's what that sort of normalization tries to reflect by taking into account the total amount of travel on a particular facility. In terms of access and mobility, again, what does the project do before versus after in terms of increasing access to jobs? This is something we can use our modeling tools to determine. So you take the current situation from a given zip code or project study area. You can look at how many jobs are accessible within 10 minutes, within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour by all modes of transportation. And then after the proposed project, have those numbers gone up? And if they have, then that is reflected in your score in terms of the increase in access to jobs. Similarly, we can model the changes in single occupant vehicle trips and whether the project leads to an increase in non-single occupant vehicle trips or a decrease in SOV trips. Climate change in the environment, reduction of greenhouse gases. What's the project's impact on reduction of greenhouse gases? This is analytically a fairly similar process to the next measure, which is reduction in criteria pollutants, which is basically what we do to calculate air emissions associated with the transportation sector and use for conformity determinations and attainment and so forth. Actually, if you can just flip back for 1 second. The only thing I wanted to add about criteria pollutants is those scores will only be relevant in non-attainment areas. So if an area is currently in attainment, all the measure for this would be just on measure 5. Go. Social equity, this is sort of a honing in of 2 previous measures on safety and access to jobs. This is really taking within the study area just the zip codes within that study area that are disadvantaged communities and measuring the change in access to job for disadvantaged community members, or measuring the change in fatalities and serious injuries just in the disadvantaged communities. So, in the first couple measures, you get points for the change in access to jobs for everyone. This gives basically additional points if you are doing a good job getting access to jobs for disadvantaged communities or reducing fatalities and injuries in those places. Economic competitiveness, measure 9 is a pretty standard measure of person hours of delay and people's trip making. Again, that's an output from the modeling software. Measure 10, this is a slightly more unusual measure, but it's meant to reflect the fact that a lot of transportation investments get made essentially to encourage economic development at a particular place. That ability to improve the likelihood of economic development in that place is really the result of increased access. That's what, you have access to that site from further away or with different kinds of vehicles. And so this is a measure that basically takes the projected increase in land value that results from the improved access and uses that as a surrogate for its improved attractiveness as a site for economic development. Because we didn't think we would be able to, in every situation, sort of figure out, oh, that's probably going to support more housing or more commercial, or, that seems like that was going to be a very difficult proposition, and that the generic measure of the improvement being made is reflected in the land value. Sustainable land use and demand management is really measured in what we're calling increase in non-work accessibility. But I think a better way to think about it in some ways is that certain development patterns, as this group is well aware, put a lot of stress and a lot of demands on the transportation system. They require people to make long trips to get to their destinations. They give them few options about how to get around. They tend to concentrate those trips at a particular time of day. And that puts a lot of stress on the transportation system. Other development patterns do the opposite. A lot of short trips, a lot of different destinations you can choose among so that you can change the trips depending on traffic conditions or time of day. A lot of options to bike or walk or take transit or again, shift trips depending on what makes the most sense, putting a lot less stress on the transportation system. This measure is meant to reflect that. So if it is a transportation project that is supporting a development pattern that doesn't put a lot of stress on the transportation system, it gets points reflected for that here. And then we would take all of those scores basically and add them all up, and you'd get a total score for all of the criteria, and then that score would be divided by by the cost of the project. And that really is, again, if you have two projects that are each delivering the same total benefits in terms of the score, they each have a score of 84. If one costs a lot less, you'd rather fund the one that costs a lot less because you're getting the same benefits, but for fewer dollars spent. And that frees up money to take on other projects and bring more benefits into the system. So that's a kind of overview of how that scoring works. I'm just going to give you a quick sort of view into a couple of these in terms of the methodology, just as examples of kind of the data and analysis approach that we're using. For a road project, in terms of measuring fatalities and injuries, we would pull the last 5 years of data on fatalities and injuries on that road. We would look at the proposed project and the way that project introduces countermeasures for the kinds of crashes that have happened on that road. We would be able to use the crash modifications to basically calculate the reduction in future crashes and then translate that into a reduction in future fatalities and serious injuries. And that is how we would derive a score basically for that measure. If it was a transit project in this case, you would basically do the same first step, figure out how many injuries and fatalities take place per 100 million miles of travel, or 100,000 miles of travel, whatever you want your base to be. You would then calculate, okay, the transit is anticipated to basically take 10 million miles of travel off the road. Then we can divide through and get a number of anticipated injuries and fatalities that are reduced as a result of shifting that travel off the road. Equity, I kind of described this earlier in terms of narrowing in on the areas that have specific geographies where disadvantaged communities are located. So I'm not going to rehash that here. Go on. Let me just talk about now where we are in the process. September and October, we've been doing a lot of briefings for different groups of folks. Happy to be able to do this here today. We are in the process of taking that feedback that we've gotten so far, kind of putting it back into our system, making changes as appropriate, doing a lot of work to develop communications materials and those collateral materials that people can rely on to see exactly how this process is going to work, and plan to do a kind of an information and outreach session in December to allow applicants to sort of get a very real feeling for, okay, here's the portal, here's the kind of data you need, here's how the scoring is going to work very specifically, and looking at doing that in December and having those documents ready in December as well. January, we anticipate opening the portal for applications. Before I sort of run through this 2-year cycle, I will just say this January, as I said, we plan to announce the amount of funding available for capacity enhancements. And if you've been following our financial situation, you may not be surprised to know that this January, we are announcing that there is no money available for additional capacity enhancements. So this is going to be essentially a trial run where people can submit applications, understand what they need to be able to do that, see how their projects are scored, and be ready for the eventuality when we do have funding to support new capacity projects. With that said, I'm just going to kind of run you through this, the way it would work if we in fact had funding. So we'd open the portal in January. Applicants would submit projects until mid-February. We would do basically reviews and scoring of those applications between February and May. Priority letters would be due in May as well, so that we could understand sort of where different scores compared to local priorities. We would then, in September, we would in fact publish the ranked list of projects in the draft CTP. That list would include the subset of the list that actually for which funding is actually available. We do the CTP tour in September, October, November timeframe, get that input. The MDOT secretary would issue a final list in December to some sort of public commission or some kind of public forum. That list would then go into the final CTP, which would be submitted to the General Assembly. They would do what they do with the CTP. And rather than immediately starting a next round of capacity expansion, trying to get that in the CTP, we would be taking May through essentially November to evaluate the process that was executed, see how it works, get input from the public, from stakeholders, make any necessary adjustments to the scoring process and the ranking process, release that new process again to a public commission, and then open the portal again in January. And so that would be how the sort of 2-year cycle would work. And I think that is my last slide, so I'd be happy to take any questions.
If we have a question in the chat box, the question
Okay.
was, will MDOT be providing assistance to the jurisdiction and applying in order to address some of the new measures? I would imagine probably from the modeling standpoint and things like that.
Yes, we will. We'll certainly be putting out guidance, written guidance on, exactly what the measures are, how they work, what data are needed from localities, and then we definitely want to, have information sessions where we can talk with people directly in a kind of big group, and then we will certainly follow up with people as they're actually trying to pull together individual projects. Everybody will be welcome to reach out to us with questions about, like, okay, when I'm actually trying to put this into the portal, or any other questions that people have, we will be wanting to talk with you.
Thank you. That was my question, but I was really asking, would you be providing assistance with the modeling? If we don't have the expertise in our county to be addressing some of these, would we be able to get assistance for that?
Yes, we will be doing most of the modeling. So in the guidance, it'll be very clear, like, here's what the applicant is responsible for, and here's what MDOT is responsible for. And we will be running the state model for most of those places where a model run is required. There are a few of the transit measures where the applicant may have to do some calculations of ridership and other things, but we'll be providing guidance on that.
Thank you.
Jeff, on some of the older projects that we had in our CTP that were deferred because of funding, so now we'll have to resubmit?
So if they have had, well, let me first say, if they haven't had funding before and they've been scored through Chapter 30, those won't need to be resubmitted, but we may ask for updated information so that we can update the scores for those. If they have received funding and are deferred in the current CTP, I don't have a ready answer for that at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a hand up from Maryland Department of Planning. Bihoyju.
No, yeah, that's the same question I want to ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Steve Cahoon from
Comments?
Queen Anne's County.
Yeah, I just had a question. Thanks for this presentation. It's a lot of information and a lot to digest, so I'm just trying to figure this out. So currently, the Chapter 30 scoring has applications from the jurisdictions, from the counties. And we're adding in SHA projects. So the new list in the coming years will have a lot more MDOT SHA projects in there. Is that correct?
We're adding in SHA and MTA projects.
Okay.
And some of those have gone through Chapter 30 in the past and others haven't. It just hasn't been consistent, frankly. And we're just saying they're all going to go in. And frankly, our theory is that we don't have a monopoly on great projects. And so we want to see how our projects are scoring against other folks' projects.
Yep. So with MDOT or SHA, this will start to prioritize projects in their CTP by going through this scoring process.
Correct. As long as they are new capacity projects.
Yep. And the counties will be submitting projects on state highways also.
Correct.
So how do we reconcile, I guess, the county trying to move a project forward versus MDOT moving their projects forward? If you will.
They will both be scored, and the rankings will show which ones do the most to advance the state goals.
Okay, and then I do appreciate the offer of assistance, because especially some of the smaller jurisdictions, it's challenging, and there are, smaller Eastern Shore counties which have not shown up on Chapter 30, and certainly need that assistance. So that'll be very helpful. So
yeah. Yeah, no, we're definitely aware that different jurisdictions are bringing different levels of capacity to bear, and we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to submit projects, and that we, because we want to make sure we get the best opportunities to look at.
Jeff, I do have a question. Will this measure be weighted, or they're equally distributed?
We are actually going through an internal weighting exercise very shortly. So I don't know how that's going to turn out yet, Bihoy.
Okay.
But I suspect there will be some weighting, and that will be one of the things, obviously, that we will let people know whether the measures are weighted and how they're weighted, and we'll be looking for feedback on that as well.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I know that was a lot of information. People, I'd be happy to take follow-up questions by email, or you can reach out to me other ways. But yeah, this is obviously a work in progress, and it's one, as I said, that we're going to be trying to really continuously update and improve. So, I think that's one of the elements we're going to be looking for in this first trial year, is what works and what can be improved, and working to sort of hear from all of you and our other partners about how to do that.
Thank you. And we will be posting these slides along with all of the other action items on our website underneath the meetings folder. Thank you.
Very good.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Jeff. Now, is there any other business that needs to come before the board? Hearing none. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chair, sorry about that. We do have an announcement from Endemasia, going to be talking about our new TIP software. So Endemasia?
Yes. Hi. So the previous software that we used to put together our TIP every year was called DTS, and it ceased operation in August of 2024. And so for the last year, BMC staff have been working on transitioning to a new software called Eco Interactive. And as we start to approach the TIP season that will start in January, we're having a training for all of your staff that work on the TIP on December 10th. From 1 to 3 p.m. to where the software team will be walking folks through all the different features that they'll need to start the TIP cycle in January. So it's on December 10th from 1 to 3. It'll be virtual, and we can send out more information about that after the meeting.
And that is it from staff, Mr. Chair.
Very good. I now call for a vote to close the meeting. All in favor, say A.
Aye.
A. The next meeting of the BRTB is scheduled for December 17th. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you very much.